as far as my internal dialogue, I just kept telling myself, like, you were built for this. You can do this. You've done harder things before, things that weren't expected. This is expected. This is planned. So just like affirming myself, like this was something we wanted and we planned for this. We got this. I told myself and I told God, like, I'm so grateful that I can give birth and that I'm blessed with this baby. So just a lot of gratitude, right? Just a dialogue, like just being so grateful.
Getting pregnant and giving birth are two of the most exciting things you can ever hope to experience in this life. The moment you think you could be pregnant, you're frantically searching for all the best information, which is why you're here today. I'm Stephanie King, and with my many years of experience as a professional childbirth educator, doula, and lover of all things pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, I'm here to make preparing for your birth enjoyable, empowering, and totally easy. Each week, I'll cover different topics, interview professionals, and get into the nitty-gritty birth stories from mamas just like you. And when you're ready for more, you can join me in the My Essential Birth course at myessentialbirth.com, where I take you step by step through exactly how to prepare your mind, body, spirit, and partner for a birth you love. So let's get started. Welcome back to the podcast, you guys. Today I have with me Lisette, and you guys, we have another birth story coming at you. So, Lisette, will you take a moment and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your family?
Absolutely. So, I am Lisette. I am a speech pathologist by trade. I work with pediatrics. Since I had my son, I've transitioned into a full-time mom, which is so exciting that I'm able to do that. I am married to a wonderful husband named Doug. He's a technical account manager. So he works hard for his family to provide, and we have a beautiful son and dogs as well in the background. I'm not sure if that's going to go through, but yeah, we're happy here in Arizona.
Oh, awesome. So you're nice and warm too. Are you northern Arizona, southern Arizona? Where are you at?
We're in Peoria, so we're pretty toasty over here.
Oh, lovely. I love it. Give me all the sun. I love the sun. So that's awesome.
Okay, yes. No shortage here.
All right. Tell me a little bit about your pregnancy. So was it pretty textbook, or like just walk me kind of through your pregnancy all the way to the end? Did you have any specific tests that came up? Tell me a little bit about vaginal exams if you chose to do those, and any like talks of induction, anything like that. Just walk us through your pregnancy.
Sure. So we got pregnant pretty quickly. We got pregnant the second try. It was interesting though, because I was convinced I had a chemical pregnancy with my son. I started bleeding around 5 weeks, and it was a lot of blood. So I was pretty sure, like, okay, that's okay. We're going to try again next time. I was trusting God in the process. But it was hard. My husband was pretty disappointed when I told him that I thought we'd lost the baby. But my body was still pretty symptomatic a few weeks later, and I tried to get an appointment with my OB/GYN, and it was really difficult to get into that office. I'm not sure if they're just like they have too many clients. I don't know. It was just a pain. So I just figured, well, I'll let my body do its thing. But as it turns out, when I went to go get the blood work up, all of my levels were indicating a pregnancy, and I was not going to believe it until I saw it on the screen. So she did the ultrasound at around 13 weeks. And sure enough, my son was still alive and kicking. And I was shocked because I was just so sure that I had lost him. And so it was an interesting start.
Yeah, for sure. So did you have any like nausea symptoms or any of the like other pregnancy things going on during that time then?
Honestly, no, I wasn't nauseous at all. I would wake up early for my work. I worked as usual, my 10-hour shifts. I felt like my belly was looking a little bit bigger than usual, and I was still working out. So I'm like, what is going on? So that was my one only indication, like, okay, like, I don't know if this is normal. But then I thought, well, maybe my body still thinks it's pregnant, because my mom did have a blighted ovum herself. So when that happens, your levels, your HCG levels just are still rising until eventually they will fall. And so I was just anticipating maybe that. I don't know if that was hereditary. I don't know. I was just thinking like, I'll just wait and see. And yeah.
Wow. How interesting. I love that. That's got to be like such a neat surprise to notice.
Totally.
Like, oh my gosh, there's a baby in there. That's so crazy. That's so cool. All right. So how about your providers? Tell me a little bit about your providers. Did you have an OB, a midwife? Where were you giving birth?
Yeah, so I started with an OB. I knew I always wanted a home birth. I was always in the back of my mind. So I know my husband was a little bit wary of that though, and I wanted him to be on board before I'd ever expect that to happen. But after I had experienced really short visits with my OB and I just felt like we were always late, like they always took us in late and it was never on time. And I don't know, I just felt not seen. There was a day when we had blood work up, but they said, sorry, we're closing. It's just, all of that just didn't resonate with me. So I told my husband, like, I want to switch. And we found a midwife. She was hospital based, which was pretty neat. She was actually recommended by a doula. So it's such a great resource, even if you don't hire. I think there was a recent episode or one of your episodes where it's like, you don't have to hire, but they have so much resources and so much insight. That just is enough to know who you should go to and just guide your decisions. And I found my midwife at a hospital, but when I did that tour, I'm like, gosh, I cannot envision myself doing birth here. So I told my husband, we watched some documentaries about, there was one called The Business of Being Born. We did a lot of discussions and heart to hearts. And he was like, okay, you know what, let's do this home birth. So he was on board finally, which was crazy because I didn't think, he would be. And that's when I switched my mode and I found a midwife who worked out of homes, wonderful woman. She was a woman of God and I felt instant connection with her. Yeah. So I was all over the place. I'd found a hospital, but I ended up going like, let's do this home birth. And we were set to do the home birth.
So how many weeks were you when you made that switch?
So I was around, I want to say 20 plus weeks or so, maybe closer to 30, to be honest, because I was in the bath and we were about to have our baby shower and he was born a week later. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Wonderful. So anything come up? So you switched over, you have this out of hospital midwife. Were there any concerns later in pregnancy? Were there talks of any kind of like even natural induction or anything like that, moving of due dates, anything?
Nothing like that. No, I was pretty dead set on my date. I was tracking pretty good because we were very intentional when we went to get pregnant. So even if they did try to switch, I would be pretty against it. There was no talks of induction. When my son was ready to be born, he was early. I had pretty quick contractions to follow. My water prematurely broke. So there was nothing like that. Everything was very natural as it could be. Despite it happening a few weeks earlier than anticipated.
Yeah. Okay. And how about your husband? Let's talk about partner support. How did he support you throughout? And I'm so curious to see how he felt about the whole home birthing. And you actually mentioned, I just have a question for you actually, because you said, I always pictured it being a home birth. Where did that idea come from? Is this like your mom gave birth at home or just in your own research, you felt right about that?
Yeah, so there was a talk in college. I think it was a midwife potentially. I've forgotten at this point. I think she was a midwife though, because she was talking about her tools being hands and like, this is, you don't need all these fancy hospital tools to have a baby. But she had discussed what it would be like to have a home birth. And she had referred us to that documentary that I mentioned earlier, The Business of Being Born. And after I watched that, I was like, holy moly, like, hospitals are a business. I mean, I'm not saying there's not a time or a place, but I don't know, like that just kind of stuck out to me when I was in my early 20s. And, I was waiting for the right person to have a family with. And I brought that up to my husband. And that's where that came from. To be honest, my mom was not about a home birth. She was very much against it, thinking, your first birth should definitely be in the hospital just in case. And we have a little bit of tension on that topic.
Yeah, you and me both. I love it.
Isn't that something?
Yes.
It's like, just support me.
Yes. They do it out of love and concern. And, they want you to be safe and all this stuff. But yeah, it can be a little difficult to deal with when you're already going through your own stuff during pregnancy. So,
absolutely.
All right. So how about your husband? How did he support you throughout the process?
Yeah, so he was at every appointment. He took the time. he works from home, so that makes it really easy, which is a blessing. But yeah, he was present with every appointment. He asked good questions, things I wouldn't even ask or think to ask. So that was pretty impressive. I don't know. I feel like sometimes men just kind of shrink away and like let the women handle it. But I was pretty impressed with some of the questions he would come up with during those appointments. He, of course, painted the room for the nursery, little things like this. He came early, like I said, so nothing was really prepared. We thought we had more time. But either way, though, he was super supportive. I got to pick the name, even though he was wanting another Doug Jr. And I was just like, I'm sorry. Like, I love you, honey, but I'm pretty set on Vincent. So he let me have my way there. But
Love
yes, that was good. But yeah, he's a great guy. We're both type A, so there is a little bit of headbutting in some things, but I think it's a good thing that we can challenge each other and just talk things through. I'd rather him be that way than just like a submissive, compliant person. So
Sure.
pros and cons.
So with the birth course then, did he watch it with you pretty diligently?
He did, yes.
Okay.
We were actually at our Cabo baby moon, which was a lot of fun. And we were in the tub watching one of the longer episodes. It was talking about like if it turns out to be a cesarean or like what to expect. And it was a lot of information and it was a longer video. And I was, we talked through it and I don't know, he never shied away from any of those videos. He watched the birth videos, which I thought were a lot of fun. And we'd talk about like what we liked about them and things that were surprising. So just the dialogue to follow was really helpful to see where he was in his headspace. I really appreciated one of your podcast episodes too, where it talks about, men or dads don't really become dads until they see and meet their baby. While moms are like instant mom. It's like the second they know they're pregnant. And it's so true. It's so true. But I always kept that in the back of my mind. I gave him some grace knowing that he's doing his thing, but he doesn't quite get it yet.
Yeah. Well, and actually it made me curious about how diligent he was, because you mentioned the questions and I'm like, usually the dads that are asking the really solid questions have knowledge, they have things that are like being sparked. So that's good for him. Good on him. I don't know, we as women, like you said, it's the very beginning, it's on our minds all the time. And so all the birth prep that we do and all of that, we like can't get enough of it because it's just constant on our mind. But for dads, most of the time, us as women, we're like dragging them through the process. And if we can get them to just latch on long enough, there is some good information there where they're like, oh, I'm so glad I know this now, but we got to get them to get there.
Totally. And it served us well because honestly, we'll get here, but I went mute during my labor. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he knew what I wanted and he was very in tune with the plan, it was helpful to have all that knowledge.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, I'm excited to hear about this. Okay, tell me a little bit about your preparation. So you guys did the birth course together, which is excellent. What were your guys' daily? Did you guys have things that you did together? Did you have things that you were doing on your own? What did your daily preparation look like? Anything from exercises, meditation, labor rehearsals to your daily nutrition and physical activity?
Yeah, so I still maintain my job, working full time. That really helped me, I think, just stay busy. I love what I do. I maintain my routine with working out. So we do Orange Theory together. If you're familiar with, it's a HIIT format class. So lots of tread, rowing, and weight room. So I continued on with my working out. I was proud of myself because I was a pregnant lady just lifting weights. And I feel like some people were shocked. They were kind of curious, oh, is this okay for you to be doing? Absolutely, it's okay for me to be doing this, because I've done the research, of course, and it was nothing abnormal from my typical day or lifestyle. So that was really helpful for me mentally. I think just moving my body was really helpful as well. There was a certain point, the tendons and all that, relaxing, flowing through your body, you do start to feel a little bit of, I suppose, pain. I don't like to call it pain, but it's just an expected thing to happen. So at that point, I switched over to more yoga-based exercises, which was helpful. And of course, that meditative piece to yoga is really sweet too.
Yeah. Wonderful. You mentioned physical and that kind of stuff. Were you guys doing some of the labor rehearsals and meditation practice and stuff together pretty consistently, or?
We did here and there. I think Doug felt kind of funny about
It's so
the
awkward.
rehearsals.
Yeah.
It is. And there's things, like the counter pressure. He did really great with that. And he's like, I don't know, which one do you like? Like he would ask for my feedback, which I thought was good. There was days when I'm like, okay, let's practice the facial massage one. I really like that. He's like, I don't know. He's such a loving guy, but then there's sometimes I think he thought that was weird because it's not something we typically would do.
Yeah.
Like, I like it, so you're going to do it. So that we did practice that. But it's funny because when the time came, I honestly did not want to be touched. So who would have known? But it's nice to know, how would you know unless you practiced or tried?
Right. Yeah. No, I can relate to that. That was me during my last labor. Like we had practiced all that massage and all that. I think I talk about it even in the birth course. And then we got there and I was like, don't touch me, but I need you right here,
Yes. So, I need your presence, but just
let me do my thing. All right. How about any preparation for yourself or your body coming up to labor? Did you do anything like red raspberry leaf or evening primrose, clary sage oil, acupressure dates, anything like that?
It's funny. I had my baby shower, I think it was September 28th. And my friend who flew out from Pennsylvania made me some dates and she put some peanut butter and chocolate around it. It was delicious.
Yeah.
We kind of joke. We think that maybe set me off earlier than we should have gone. I was probably having 6 dates after that a day because they're so delicious.
Yeah.
But it was never like me trying to move things along. It was just, I don't know. Who knows if that was what sparked an early labor for me, but that happened. As far as diet, I continued with I love fish. I love my variety. So lots of vegetables, lots of fruits. I didn't do anything with the tea because I wasn't at that point yet. But yeah, I was ready.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So how many weeks pregnant were you when things kind of kicked off? And did you have any inkling before that they were going to? Did you have any appointments with your midwife or conversations with her? Was it looking like things were going to be happening or what was that like?
We didn't anticipate an early labor at all. I was told because it was my first child to expect to go past that 41 week, right? And so I was ready for that. I took the month off from work thinking I had plenty of time to prepare myself, my nesting, all of that. Thank you cards. I thought I had all this time, but I had a week from the time I stopped working to the time I gave birth to my son. So that was 35 weeks. He came a little early. Had I gotten to the 36-week mark, I could have had the home birth I really wanted, but he came 3 days too soon, which all resulted in a good experience, even though I didn't have the home birth. But I was a little bummed, 3 days, kid, come on. He's a little spunky already. But yes, it happened a little earlier than anticipated. And I had, because it was, that mark in time, I couldn't do the home birth, so I had to switch back on over to the hospital. And luckily, I'd already met with and knew of the hospital midwife. So we knew who we wanted to see.
That's awesome. So did you meet with a hospital midwife before you switched over to the out of hospital? Was this your current provider before you switched?
I switched from OB/GYN to the hospital thinking my husband would never support a home birth. But then when we got to that point, that's when I switched from the hospital-based midwife to the home-based. So I went back and forth based on what happened and circumstances. But I was very fortunate to have her because she had just gone back from her trip to Jamaica, literally the day prior. So I got to see the same woman who I liked her a lot. It's just I did not want to do the hospital birth. It wasn't about her at all. It was just, I really wanted to stay at home.
Well, and what a blessing, though, that it was somebody that you knew, that you were comfortable with, that got to be in your birth space. I love that.
Yes. Huge difference. Yeah. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us, let's go through your birth. What set this off? Did it start with breaking of waters or contractions? And then, just walk us through it.
Totally. So I was taking a nap. Well, it started with a sneeze. It was October 6th. I sneezed and a little bit of fluid came out. And I thought, that's strange. I hadn't had any issues of incontinence. I'm like, well, I am getting bigger, so I didn't know. So I thought that was kind of weird. But then the next day, more fluid came out after I got up from a nap. And so I thought, okay, this isn't normal. So when I texted my midwife about it. She thought maybe it was called, it's a watery show, which I'd never heard of, to be honest. I've heard of bloody show, never heard of a water show. So I was just thinking, okay, well, I've never had a baby. I'm going to trust what she's saying. But something in me was like, no, there's just something going on. There's something happening. And sure enough, the next day after a longer nap, it gushed, and it was very clear. Like that was, it was my water trying to break, I guess. I'm not sure if there was a little leak in the beginning or what, but it was very obvious that big gush. So once I got up, my heart was just pounding. I was thinking, oh no, there's something wrong, because I wasn't anticipating him to come so early. And it's funny, I didn't talk to my husband, works from home, right? I didn't call him in at all. I was just like talking to the midwife. He wasn't my first line of defense. I don't know what I was thinking, but I wasn't ready to tell him for whatever reason. But she was like, let me come over and test the fluid and see what's going on. And sure enough, that's when I told him, she's coming to see what's happening because of the water breaking. But she came, she verified, the little Q-tip turned black, which was indication of the amniotic fluid. She said, okay, you're a little early. We can't have that home birth, and you're going to be having a baby. So you'll have to go to the hospital of your choice. And she knew what hospital we wanted. And at that point, Doug turned green. He was so pale and green. I was manic. I was just laughing. I just couldn't believe what was happening. But I don't know, because my midwife was so calm, and the way she spoke to me and just her candor, she just made me feel at peace with what was happening. I didn't feel like this was an emergency. At first I thought like, oh shoot, like this is not what I was expecting. But when she came in, I don't know, like everything just felt okay. Like I felt okay. I still felt my son moving, which was really reassuring. So once we talked and we decided our game plan, we had to pack. We have nothing prepared. Like we had no bags whatsoever. We thought we had more time. So we probably packed 5 different bags. I'm not even kidding. I had a bag for my son's stuff. I had a bag for my stuff. Doug had a bunch of snacks going on. I don't know. Like we came in looking like pack mules. It felt a little bit ridiculous, but that's what happens when you don't prepare. I think next time we'll prepare at the 30-week mark. We'll have everything ready to go. But we had a lot going on. They said, take your time getting there. So we did. We took our time. We brought our dogs to my dad's so that they were safe and being watched over. We went to Angie's Lobster, which is a really tasty, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but they have lobster rolls, and they also have other things. I got the protein bowl. I was afraid, again, the hospital. I didn't want to be told what I could eat and what I couldn't eat. So I downed like a huge amount of chicken, shrimp, steak. I don't know. It was like a huge protein bowl. It was delicious at the time, but I kind of regret how much I ate because I was burping so much during my labor. So that was my thing. I was just burping away. But yes, once we got to the hospital, it was around 7:30 at night. My water broke around 3 o'clock in that afternoon. So just to give you a little bit of timeline there. I continued to labor. It was in triage, which was a little bit challenging, just knowing, there's a bunch of other women and things going on. So a bit distracting in that regard. But honestly, when I got to that point, like I didn't care. I was just kind of pacing up and down the halls. I would go to the bathroom if I felt like I needed to. I stood up the whole time. Like I tried sitting on the birth ball, hated it. Like that was not for me. They did check me when I got there. Sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around here, but they did check me with a speculum to ensure that my water had broken. That was probably the most challenging part to my experience because it was painful. Like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I don't think she was trying to be rough, but it did not feel good when that happened. Luckily, I moved past that pretty quickly. But after that, you would see me on the wall and I was leaning on it and my head was against the wall and I would breathe through it. Low moans was my thing. Doug, it was not a known thing, but he had a rag and he would dip it in cold water for me and put it in the freezer. And I wanted that. That was something that was really helpful for me. So I would kind of just keep it on my shoulder or rub my face with it. So that was a great tool. I don't know if women out there do that, but it happened to work for me. So we called our doula. She asked how we were doing. She was ready to come whenever we were ready to have her. So she thought, being a first-time mom, I would be taking my time. But my contractions were coming on pretty fast and pretty strong. So I think it was every 2 minutes, 45 seconds is how long each contraction would last. And I was having Doug time all of that. So that's something husbands or partners can certainly do. So I didn't have to think about all that. So yes, once my midwife got into the office, she had actually gone home with her kids for a little while and she came back. She was telling me that I was doing great, just some good words of affirmation, like you're doing your thing, keep going. Nothing was sounding like an emergency again. Like that really meant a lot to me. Like I don't want to feel like there's an emergency, even though I'm in a hospital. Because I'm sorry, you think of emergencies when you're in a hospital. That's what it's for. But she was very calm. Still in triage. I probably labored in triage for about 6 hours, which was kind of rough. We didn't have a room because there were so many other women giving birth that evening. So once we finally got into a room, I got into the shower. I was really hoping for that water birth. That wasn't an option in the hospital. But I got into the shower, which was great. It made me feel really, really good. And it was so good, almost like I thought, oh no, this is too good. Like I thought maybe my labor had stalled or something. So then I started doing all these Captain Morgan positions, just kind of, listening to my body. And that certainly helped because my baby was dropping pretty low. There was one piece before we got to the room itself. So I didn't have any cervical checks. I didn't want any of them. However, there was a point when she said somebody came in, she'd been checked, and unless I was checked to see how far along I was, she would get the room first, which did not resonate with me at all because I'd been laboring so long. And she wasn't trying to pressure me. She even said, like, I'm not trying to pressure you. This is not what's happening, but just to let you know, this woman had come in and I think she was like 4 centimeters. And so that frustrated me in the moment because I'm like, there's no way. I've been laboring for 6 hours and she's going to get this room before me. So I did let her check. So I had that one check and I was 5.5 dilated and stationed at around 0 or +1. So anyway, yeah. So I was moving right along. That was really good. I'm telling you, Stephanie, those podcasts were a lifesaver because I just knew like, what if I'm just 1 centimeter? It won't matter though. Because that's why I didn't want to be checked. Like it's such a mental game.
Right.
So luckily though, it was a pretty decent number. Not that it mattered, but it was for them, for the hospital, right? It was good. So yes, once we got into the room, I was probably in the shower for about, 30 minutes or so. And that's when I started feeling like just that urge to push. And I would just start to spontaneously push. It was kind of weird. Like I wasn't like trying, but it was just like, ugh. I just kind of let out the sound and that alerted my doula who was there at that time. And she was like, okay, like let's get Emily to look at you. And she's like, okay, looks like you're ready to push. So let's move you to the bed. And so meanwhile, though, while I was in the shower, Doug had set up all my little twinkle lights and my little fake candles and he had the diffuser going. So all the things I wanted at home, right? Like he had set up to the best of his ability in the room. And the lights were low, which was really nice. I appreciated that. Made my way to the bed. And I ended up being on my hands and knees. And they said, when you're ready, go for it. And I was. So I pushed him out probably in a couple pushes. I want to say 25 minutes or so was how long I was pushing. And Doug was right there at the front of the bed and he was holding my hand and I just kept asking for water. I just remember thinking like, oh my gosh, like this is a lot. Like I need my water. I need some more water. So after every push, I would drink my water and he kept having to fill it up. But I was allowed, right? So I was giving my water. You know where I stand on this. But it was nice. It was nice that I was able to have what I needed when I felt like I needed it. And so I think that really did help with my progression. So from start to finish, from my water breaking to giving birth, it was just shy of 12 hours. He was born perfectly and my husband caught him, which was something special. I wanted that to be a part of our story. So he caught baby and then I was able to bring baby up onto my chest for that skin on skin. We waited for the cord to stop pulsing and we were given that time to just bond. It was great.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Can you walk me through your contractions a little bit, kind of what they felt like from the beginning and throughout progression, and then how you dealt with them or worked through them that helped you?
Yeah, so in the very beginning, soon after my water had broken, it was period cramps is what feels like. It's just a little crampy here and there. But that was very hopeful that it happened right away for me. So I was happy to have felt something. Um, so pretty minor, like just that achy feeling in your belly. They gradually, of course, get more intense. I just felt like just this wrapping around in my belly. And I don't know, it's like a feeling you can't explain. It's so interesting. I didn't think it was pain. I don't think it was like an unbearable amount of pain, but it was certainly intense. And I did have to breathe through them. And I think this is something you said, like the open mouth, open vagina. Like I was just like, this is going to happen and I'm going to be okay. And my best thing, I don't know, I think it was I'm an active person. I had to stand up and pace the whole time. I never wanted to sit down. So that's how I worked. I think gravity helped me in that way. So that was a good tactic for me to do. Some people do really well with using the ball though, so good on them. I think it's just every woman is so different. Yeah. And every pregnancy is so different. So we'll have to see. I'm pretty excited for the next one to see what happens.
You sound like me.
It's so great. Pregnancy is awesome.
Fun. I know.
It is. And I mean, I am a woman of prayer, so I was praying quite a bit. I'm like, you know what? We're working as a team, baby. Thank you, God, for allowing me to have this baby. Like, thank you for helping my body. Like, I just was talking to God quite a bit. That was helpful.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my other questions is tell me what was going on inside of your mind as you were going throughout the labor process. And were there affirmations that you were saying? It sounds like there was some prayer. There specific things that you were talking to God about or even just thinking about during that time. You know, you said you kind of went mute. Can you maybe go over that part too?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So as far as my internal dialogue, I just kept telling myself, like, you were built for this. You can do this. You've done harder things before, you know, things that weren't expected. This is expected. This is planned. So just like affirming myself, like this was something we wanted and we planned for this. We got this. I told myself and I told God, you know, like, I'm so grateful that I can give birth and that I'm blessed with this baby. So just a lot of gratitude, right? Just a like just being so grateful. And then as far as my mute, I think my midwife tried to tell me something. I don't know. She's like, oh, wow, you know, you're really working hard. She asked me some type of question. Honestly, Stephanie, I have no idea. She asked me something and I just flat out ignored her. And my husband's like, yeah, she's not talking to me either. So I was like, I don't know. Like, I just did not, I had to focus on what I was feeling and doing. I felt like any distraction, I just had to shut it all off because I was so in tune with what my body was doing and the feeling like that all of it, everything I've read, it's like so accurate. Oh, you know, when it gets lower, you're going to feel like you have to poop. And I'm like, oh, that's great. He's getting lower and where he needs to be. So I was just thinking of all the things I learned too. You would have laughed. I brought a huge binder of the coursework.
I love it.
Yeah. It's like so ready. It's like,
I was that person.
Through.
100%. Yes. I love it.
Yes.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Yeah. And all that stuff kind of comes back to you, I think, during that time too. Like there were different parts of my labor, you know, like my favorite affirmation or the one that I like stuck with the most was like, I can do anything for a minute. I can do anything for a minute, you know, but there were times when I was contracting and things were getting really tough and I was just picturing like understanding the process of birth and watching that, you know, your uterus gather at the top and I was watching my cervix in my head open and I'm watching it do it safely and softly and comfortably. And these are the kind of the conversations that I'm having. And it's going to be different for every mom, you know, different moms are going to be like, I'm in the ocean and I'm riding the wave or, you know, I'm looking at a flower opening. It doesn't matter what it is. It's whatever resonates with you. But there are different things that we do in our mind when we are present, but we are somewhere else at the same time. Call it labor land, call it what you will, that dreamlike state. And you do what you have to do to work through it. And that will be different for each mom or even you talking about each pregnancy and birth is going to be different. That's 100% true. It could be very similar and it could be completely different. And, you know, that's kind of the excitement and fun. And yeah, it's such an interesting state to be in. There's nothing like it. I haven't found any other way to get there, you know, and I think it's just you're as close to heaven as you can possibly get here on this earth, bringing another life into the world. I think that's just part of it. You're just on the edge of here and now and somewhere else. And it's beautiful. But But having tools and ways to get through it is just so helpful. So pulling in information that you've had from podcasts or conversations with your husband or spiritual, all of that matters. All of that is useful information during the process. So that's really great.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm so thankful. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, how about, is there anything else you want to add before I kind of dive into your advice for moms, advice for dads?
I'd say just, building your tribe. I think that is such an essential piece to your success and having the birth you want. And for me, that meant going out of pocket with certain providers that I wanted. And so we all have different priorities and we all have different financial means. And I totally acknowledge that. I don't like how insurance can dictate what a provider can and cannot bill for and do for you. So my husband and I had talks about this, and we were like, you know what? It's something I want to budget for because I want that pelvic floor specialist on board. I want to have that chiropractor on board. I want to, just to have these conversations with them, and of course to have them on my side when I need them. I'm thinking of the breech possibility, right? Like, okay, well, we need a chiropractor to help us out with that. Having a doula, like all of these things, all of these people, I really thought that was the reason why everything went the way it went. It was just having my people and those supportive individuals. Like they're so knowledgeable in each of their areas. They have their specialty, and I just so respect the professions. I'm not saying, you can, of course, meet with different professionals. OBGYNs are great. When they're needed, they're needed. And I think that's great to have a relationship built ahead of time. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a big fan of midwifery, and that's their specialty. That's what they do. And I think that people, if they're a little bit standoffish on the profession itself, do some research. They're amazing. And same with doulas. They can guide you in who, like based on your personality and based on your preferences, they can guide you on who to meet and what people to talk to. So
yeah, I love that. Thank you for including that. All right, before we jump off, I want to hear your best advice for moms and best advice for dads.
Okay, so as far as moms go, definitely listen to your intuition. If something is very difficult for you to visualize about your pregnancy or birth, there's something wrong or something that maybe should be addressed. So for me personally, I could not visualize having a birth in a hospital, even though that's what happened. But it's not, what I was able to visualize in the moment. So that's what geared us towards that home birth preparation. I would say building your tribe is definitely essential in having the birth that you want. Always taking your time with decisions, not just off the cusp, just think about it. You don't have to make a decision immediately. If you're not sure, think about it. I would say just knowing that you have rights and you have to give consent. If there's something that you don't want to do, then don't. This is your body. This is your life. It's your baby. So those are my biggest, I think, tips.
I like that. How about for dads?
For dads, hear her out when she wants to do something that maybe you've never done or heard of. Ask questions, be present during appointments. She wants you to be the rock and the leader that, of the family. So show up, definitely show up. And even if it's not said out loud, just being there is critical. It's so critical. And we need you. You're our men and you're our strength and protectors. And like I said, Doug was my voice while I was in labor land. And I'm so happy that he knew exactly what I wanted. And we were on the same page. So yeah, just be there.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your story here with everybody.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, welcome, Doug. Thank you so much for being on the podcast here with us today. We talked with Lisette a little bit. I heard you were doing nap time. So now we get to have you on for a little. So thank you for being here. Let's start with how you supported her during pregnancy. Like, did you go to appointments with her? Were you helpful with her stuff at home? Like, what did it look like for you from the dad side to support her?
Yeah, I would say it was pretty easy because it was something we discussed the whole time. Like, there was no surprises like, oh, I have an appointment. Are you going to be there tomorrow? It was like already in the calendar. So I was there for, every appointment that I could be. I don't think I missed a single one. I don't think I missed a single appointment. I was there for all those. We followed your like video series and did all the stretches and all the prep. Like we were pretty religious about that. And I think that made a smoother labor. Obviously, Lisette probably elaborated more, but I think all the stretches and prep really helped.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, she said you were pretty diligent about the birth course and asking good questions, so that's good. How about were there any challenges that you guys worked through? Or I'd even love to hear, because she had mentioned, I didn't know how he was going to feel about going from home or hospital to home birth. Will you kind of walk us through your thoughts on that for other dads that are listening and maybe going through the same thing?
Yeah, I would say like stay in tune with your wife. Like you shouldn't be each doing like separate research or anything. Not that that's a bad thing, but you should be in sync with, what you want together as a family. So when she said, she wanted to switch to home birth, I was pretty much already on board because we had been doing all the research together. So I thought it was great. I'd say if you're a husband and you're in that situation where maybe you don't know anything and your wife comes to you and says you want a home birth, don't freak out. Like go ahead and do research alongside of her and just know all the facts.
Yeah, I love that. And how about your guys' preparation? How did you prepare together? So you did the course and that's wonderful, but what did you utilize from that or from the podcast or whatever? What were those kind of like daily, weekly things that you guys were doing together?
A lot of like breathing exercises and relaxation techniques. So like different little massages. She didn't end up liking that during birth and that's completely okay. But, at least we had that down in case that was something she wanted. But the like physical stretches was a big deal. We made sure we did those every day. You wouldn't go run a marathon without training, right? So why would you give birth without, training and doing stretching and prepping? So we were really diligent about that.
That's so good. Were there things during pregnancy that came up for you guys where you had questions and how did you deal with those questions? Were these like things that went through the midwife or were they questions that came up because of things that you were learning? Anything like that?
Yeah. Like Dr. Google was a big one. Lisette and I love to exercise. So one of the biggest things was like, is this okay? Like, is she okay to run? Like, at what point does she need to scale back on exercising? And, pretty much from talking to doctors and, watching your videos through our appointments, Googling stuff, all exercise is pretty much safe up to the point where you feel comfortable. So, of course, if Lisette is 9 months pregnant, running a marathon probably isn't advised or, trying to do push-ups. But if you're physically able to do something, as long as you're not overdoing it, that seems to be pretty safe. And we felt comfortable with all the different resources, whether it be, watching your video series or talking to our midwives and doctors. I guess some other questions I had were just like diet, really trying to optimize her diet. Lisette loves spicy food and it's like, oh, is that safe for the baby? Can she still eat spicy food? And, obviously that was okay. So just little things like that. And something that surprised me too, when we saw the baby for the first time, I didn't realize how much babies moved in the womb. So that was really fun throughout the pregnancy where Lisette would just be, across the room and she'd be like, look. And, all of a sudden you would see, her stomach moving because the baby was having the time of his life in there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. How about the birth process? Tell me how you supported her throughout that and kind of from Dad's perspective, what it was like.
Yeah, from my perspective, because the baby came early, like it was definitely unexpected. I'm just working and, Lisette finally tells me that she thinks her water broke and the midwife's coming over. The midwife confirms it and Lisette said I looked green. Because they basically said, like you're having the baby today and it was way early, like we weren't even packed or expecting it. So I was a little shocked. I don't think you could ever fully be ready for a baby. You could be as ready as you can be. So I just kind of had to go with that. Like, okay, we're as ready as we can be at this point. So I definitely tried not to freak out or anything. We took our time getting ready. And then I just kind of listened to her and, her body at the time. So when we were in the car, I was trying to time her contractions. just to keep an eye on like how things were progressing. And then once we got to the hospital, that's where I thought I would be doing more of like the, massages and comforting measures where, in the moment, Lisette didn't want that, which is perfectly okay. Like, I'm kind of the same way. Like when I'm, not feeling good or going through something tough physically, like I kind of just want to be left alone. So I basically just stayed right by her side, but kept my distance. So if she wanted something like I think she mentioned the cold washcloth, I would get that and put it on her head and, try to comfort her in that way. But then once she would go through contractions, like she just kind of wanted to be perched up against the wall and on her own. So I think it helped just being by her side to, cater to her needs in that moment.
Yeah, there's so much that men do just by being present with us during labor. And yeah, that shouldn't be underestimated by any means. Were there any physical things that you did do during that time? So you mentioned the washcloth. Were there any kind of even like background things that you found yourself doing that were helpful during that time?
I guess like as far as background things, just kind of talking with the doula, because, at that point, like Lisette's not going to want to talk on the phone or be texting. So I was the one messaging the doula and letting her know like what was going on and timing the contractions. And then also talking to the medical staff, like Lisette didn't really want to talk to them, which I totally understand. So, trying to get our status of like, when are we going to get a room, or, is our midwife on the way? Making sure our doula was in the loop so she could meet us at the hospital. So just kind of all like the background administrative type work.
Yeah. How did you feel about having a doula from Dad's perspective?
I would recommend it if you could do it. Having a doula was super helpful. I mean, they could provide like so much different support, whether it be like, emotional or, in the case of our doula, she was like emotional support and taking pictures throughout the process. So that was really awesome. And then just having like a third party perspective through the birth process really helps. So like, ultimately we make the medical decisions, but, a doctor comes in and says, we recommend this. It's something we could discuss and get our doula's opinion on. So just having that third opinion really helps.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's interesting because you tell me how you feel about people coming in and recommending stuff during labor. Did it really feel like a recommendation when it was coming through? And do you feel like you got all the information that you needed? Or was it necessary to have somebody else there to kind of like run it through the translator and give you a different perspective as well?
I think because we were super prepared and, we chose a hospital that works with midwives and is known to be like less interventional. We didn't really have problems. Like if the midwife or doctor was recommending something, they gave us like the pros and cons and why they're recommending it. And then like there was no pressure. They said, it's completely up to you. Because we had done all this research ahead of time too, like we kind of knew what to expect. So like, how we feel about if they want to offer us Pitocin and we're still early in the process, like we're obviously going to say no. When they want to offer, like once the baby is born, like putting the ointment in their eyes and all that stuff, like we know we didn't want that ahead of time. So those were pretty easy because we prepped for it.
Yeah. No, I love that you share that because it's so important that when you have that information, when you have that education and knowledge, when you go in, it's not as stressful. You don't have to be kind of up in the air with anything. So I'm glad you shared that. Thank you. How about I love to end these episodes with your best advice for moms and best advice for dads from both perspectives. So she gave that as well. So if you we'll start with dads. What's your best advice for dads and then for moms?
Okay, let me pull it up. I wrote a few things down so I wouldn't forget.
Oh, I love it.
So I would say like, throughout the whole process, like just be there with your wife. Like this is something you're going through together, right? It's not just her, like you're going through this as a family. So, be there whenever you can, whether it be appointments, doing prep, stretches, whatever your wife needs, like you should be there, make time for it. Once the baby is here, like your schedule revolves around the baby, especially for the first few weeks of the first few months. So, just get used to that. Like expect that you're not going to get any sleep. And if you do, that's just a bonus. Something that, I don't know, it's kind of funny, but like changing diapers and stuff, I always thought like, oh, I'd be able to, wash my hands every time. Like that's not realistic once you have kids. Like be okay with getting dirty. Like sometimes if you just have a baby wipe or hand sanitizer, like that may be all you get and you have to be okay with that. I guess my biggest fear too as a dad is like what to do when the baby's crying. Like, how do I comfort the baby? As a dad, like you're probably way overthinking it. Between you and the mom, you will figure something out. And babies will cry. Like that's part of the process. They're just telling you they need something. So it could be food, it could be sleep, especially if they're overtired. But just be present with your baby and your wife, and your baby will get what they need, and they'll eventually calm down.
Yeah. And how about your best advice for moms? If you could give advice for moms from a dad's perspective, what would that look like?
Yeah, definitely keep your husband in the loop. So if you're doing, a bunch of research, get him in early in the process. Make sure that you're both in sync with what you want. Like you should never get into a situation where you're in the hospital and, your wife wants something and you want something different. Like that should all be figured out ahead of time.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, before we jump off, is there anything else in regards to like your side of things or something in the birth story you want to tell or anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I'll just talk a little bit about the birth story. So I was a little afraid of catching the baby. Like that was something we talked about and wanted to do. Your biggest fear, of course, is like fumbling and the baby falls or something. Again, I would just say like for dads, you're probably overthinking it. We also watched plenty of videos ahead of time too of births, and that really helped. And I don't know, I get a little squeamish. So watching those, like at first it was a little like, ooh, like, I don't know if I could do this. But once you're in the moment, at least for us, like with our baby, like there was no issues at all. It was like, all right, I'm ready. Baby's here, caught the baby, no problem. And, once you have that baby in your arms, like, you're sharing a special moment between you, the baby, and your wife. And, it doesn't matter that there's a bunch of lights or distractions in the background, or you're covered in fluids that you don't know exactly what it is. Like, it doesn't matter. You're just there and you love your wife and you love your baby.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for jumping on here and being able to talk and share your perspective from dad's side of things. I think it's going to help a lot of people. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on, Stephanie.
If you loved what you heard today, the very best way to support this podcast and help other moms to find it is to leave a quick review. I read one at the beginning of the episodes, and I would love for yours to be next. And if you're ready for even more pregnancy, birth, and postpartum goodness, come join me in the My Essential Birth course at myessentialbirth.com, where I will hold your hand and walk you through pregnancy and birth step by step so you're totally prepared for a birth you'll love. See you next week.